Hello guys, welcome to a new video on this channel. I haven't filmed a video on here in such a long time. I think it's been 4 months. But I have been using my Christian Tumblr. Shout out if you're from there. I love that blog so much. I haven't been as active on my Christian social media as I wanted to be, but it's not because my faith is struggling. It's because of school. My faith is actually doing better than ever. My relationship with God is as close as it has ever been, which makes me so happy and which makes me want to tell you guys a story today about what God has done for me and how great God is. As you may or may not know, I am a student. I'm at a German university. It's called, no, I'm actually not going to tell you which university it is because that's not safe. But I currently live in France and I'm finishing up my studies from over here. I used to go in person at my university, but now I don't anymore. And my studies, to make a long story short, are supposed to last 3 years. It's a normal bachelor's degree in Germany. It's not supposed to take forever. It's supposed to last 3 years. And I have been studying in these studies now for over 6 years. And to tell you the truth, I have been struggling more than anything in my entire life. I struggled in school as long as I can imagine. Even in like elementary school, I was struggling so hard. I couldn't write. I would write everything like the mirrored way, like all the letters would be mirrored. I couldn't do math ever in my entire life, even when I was a tiny little kid. And I had so many struggles, and everybody knew that school just wasn't for me and that I was having a really hard time. And all my teachers always knew that I just wasn't a school's girl. I just wasn't meant for school or academics or whatsoever. But by some miracle, it's not some miracle, it's an actual miracle, God helped me do my A-levels. And at the time, I wasn't even following God actively. I had a little bit of faith, but it was just, I hadn't given my life to Jesus whatsoever. And I was also going through a lot of trauma and family problems at home without wanting to speak negatively about anyone. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to talk about my past in this video or my family, but yeah, I moved out from home when I was 18 years old, and I was trying to finish up my A-levels in high school. And I was so traumatized and I was so depressed at that time that I didn't study a single hour for my exams in high school. And all my teachers and all the people that were caring for me were preparing me for the fact that I was most likely going to fail my A-levels, that I was most likely not going to make it. And I remember being so scared while writing my A-levels that I was shaking so hard with my hands that I couldn't even hold a pen. I'm sorry, I have this ASMR rainy day autumn room on YouTube in the background to relax myself while I tell you the story. So anyway, I passed my A-levels, not even with the worst possible grade. It wasn't a good grade whatsoever, but I passed it. And it was one of the biggest miracles, or the biggest miracles, that God had done in my life up to that point. I was so blessed, and it was just absolutely God's hand. There is no denying that this was God's hand, because I wasn't even going to school, y'all. I was ditching class every single day. My mental health was so bad, I would get up in the morning and go to school and then come home after 4 hours of school, even though I had an extra 4 hours to go, and I would just not go. And there's certain classes where I also wouldn't go, like, at all, like, for example, German class or sports class or politics. I just wouldn't go, like, at all. I just wouldn't attend ever, like, the whole year. And everyone was so worried about me, and all these teachers were talking about me, and they were telling me that they're concerned and that they were talking about me and stuff. And I just didn't feel it in my heart to open up to them about what was happening with my mental health, because I just knew that they wouldn't understand. And I did open up to, I think, 1 or 2 teachers, and they did not want to be involved with my family trauma. They did not want to help or, get like child protective services or anything involved. It was such a mess, and people just knew that I was gonna fail. And what's funny is that I didn't. And I can just say so wholeheartedly that was not by my own power. And if you had been there and you had seen me and you had seen what my teachers had seen and you had seen what the people caring for me had seen, you would know that I was not capable of doing this. By far, by so far. I hadn't even taken notes in class, and I am really not a smart person. And this is not to like be like, oh, I didn't study and I passed my A levels. I was a mess, y'all. I was an absolute mess, and I was not the most intelligent person, and I was not listening in class. And I got my A levels solely by the grace of God, because He was looking out for me and He had a plan for me, and He wanted me to do what I do now in order to make a bigger plan happen that He had for me. And I'm so aware of that now. After I finished my A levels, I really thought to myself, I don't know what I want to do with my life. And it took me so long of trying different studies, of doing different things, and failing every single thing, just because I was so mentally like unstable that anything was impossible for me. Anything that I tried, I would fail at. And I just didn't have the same mental capacities as the people around me. And I didn't really have anyone looking out for me at that time to make sure that I have support in my studies whatsoever. I just didn't. And that was a really tough time of failing everything that I tried. And now it's next year will be 10 years since I have done my A levels. And I have been studying for 6 years at the university that I am now. And I almost failed my uni so many times. The thing is, in Germany, you only get 3 tries at an exam total, not just until you reapply, whatever, it's 3 tries. If you fail any exam at a university 3 times, you will not only get kicked out of your studies, you will also not be allowed to study the same thing anywhere in Germany. Like, you're completely banned from studying said subject in Germany. So you're really messed up if you fail an exam 3 times. And I almost failed so many exams 3 times because I'm just so bad at stuff. And I remember, oh my gosh, I could talk about this forever. I remember one exam. I'm studying early childhood education and pedagogy, okay? And so in my studies, there is mandatory statistics. Everyone has to go to a few statistics classes and pass a really big statistics exam. And there's so many statistics about how people who study what I study fail the statistics exam all the time because we're just not math people, and we're like social studies people, and we're just so bad at statistics. And there's even, my university even has statistics about how much anxiety students in my domain have just to take the statistics exam. They're like German wide, really known for their statistics on student anxiety for the statistics exam. And so I studied for this exam so many times. If I tell you, I didn't take this exam for the first 4 years of my studies. I only a few years ago passed this exam. I was already with my husband, so I passed this exam then. And I knew in my heart that I was going to fail. Because first of all, I hadn't studied enough. Second of all, out of all of my attempts to understand this subject, I haven't retained anything that I had listened to in class or that I studied for myself. I just didn't retain anything. And it was a whole bunch of math. It was a whole bunch of difficult math. And I am not able to do math. I'm not even able to do basic math. I'm not even able to do high school level math. let alone like middle school level math. Like, I can't do any math. I can't even like I can't do the simplest math in my head that I need at the grocery store. I need like my calculator on my phone for literally everything. I think I might have like dyscalculia or some actual like disability when it comes to math, because I'm just not able to do the simplest math. It's actually, my husband makes fun of me quite a bit because of that. And it's kind of funny now, but at the time it really wasn't funny because I had this exam and I knew in my heart that I didn't have it in me to pass it this time, let alone at a later point. And I passed it with the worst possible grade on the first try. And that was the first exam where I really sat with myself in prayer while it was a multiple choice exam, so it was not an exam where I had to write anything of my own. It was a multiple choice exam where you can cross different possibilities, and it's like one of the options that you can choose from. And I remember sitting there after I had guessed every single answer and praying and just saying, God, if this is your will, if this is what you want for me, make me pass this exam, give me the right answers. If this is your will, if this is what you want for my life, if you want me to pass this exam, make me pass it. If you want me to fail and stop these studies, better know now, Lord, better know what your will is, what your plan is now, because I myself am not strong enough for this. And I don't want you to think, whoa, this girl really has a low self-esteem. She's really making herself seem like she is not that smart. She doesn't have that much confidence in herself. I promise you, I'm the worst person in my class my whole entire life. Every single exam that I did in middle school, in high school, it's the same thing in Germany anyway, in university, I'm always the worst person in my class. Ever since I can imagine. School is really not for me, y'all. And I promise you this. And I passed that exam, and I knew in that moment that that was God's hand. I'm actually getting like goosebumps right now talking about this, because it was such a big moment in my life, just knowing, the Lord approves of this. God wants you to do this. This is God's plan. And then very recently, like a month ago, I had an exam, and it was my third try. And I had not studied enough for this. It was a very, very, very difficult exam. And the professor doing this exam was notorious for making very, very difficult exams and people failing his exams all the time. And those are people who have much less problems concentrating than I do. People who are much smarter, much more cut out to be in academics. They fail this exam all the time. It actually doesn't have that many people passing this exam. And I was supposed to do this exam. This was supposed to be the first exam that I ever would do in my studies. And I pushed it for 6 years. 6 years in a row, I went to the doctor and got a sick slip for this exam that said, this girl is so mentally ill, so scared of this exam that she can't attend due to her anxiety and depression. And my university accepted it every single time. And so for 6 years, I hadn't done this exam. And this time I wasn't even living in Germany anymore. So it was this huge, super scary thing where I had to take the train all by myself. I know that doesn't sound like this crazy because that's what people my age do all the time, but for me it was just so scary to do this all on my own. I took the train all the way to Germany, all on my own. I stayed in a hotel all on my own, and I went to my university by myself, and I took my third try, and the professor was like, oh, this time it's extra hard, only the best people are gonna pass this exam. And I knew that I had studied for this exam so much and I had understood nothing. I really tried to work together with God and to show God that I was trying to do to do what he wants me to do. I was trying to participate. I wasn't just saying, okay, God, you lead me and I'm not going to try any single effort in order to pass this exam. I'm just trusting you completely. You do everything for me. I wanted to show God, hey, I can work. I can do my part of what I can do. I can do my best so that you can use me in the best possible way. Of course, I'm free for you to use me however you would like. But yeah, I just wanted to show God that I was going to put effort in for him and for what, was right. And I did my best, but it was such a difficult exam and I just didn't understand anything. And I didn't retain anything. And so I wrote that exam and I knew that I failed it. I knew that I failed my third try and that my studies were over. And this time I was so certain as I have never been before in my life. I just knew that it was over and that it was time for me to find something else to do, and that, these 6 years of studies had not led me to anything. And I wasn't even hurt. I wasn't even that disappointed because I just knew that I had done my best and I had done my best to work with God. But during that exam, I prayed and I was like, God, I don't know the answers. Again, it was a multiple choice exam. I said to God, I don't know any answers. I'm reading through these papers. These are so complicated and so full of traps for me to fall into. I don't know the answers. You tell me which ones to cross, Lord. You tell me which answers are right. And after I prayed that prayer, I just read the stuff and I put random crosses everywhere. And I had a talk afterwards with my professor where I explained to him that I had failed. And he actually had so much sympathy for me. It was him and his associate. It was two professors, but they were working together. And he actually had so much empathy for me, which I didn't expect, because I thought actually that he was kind of a villain or kind of like a mean person for making such difficult exams and stuff. And I really thought, that he would be mean to me or whatever, but he was so nice. And then he wrote me an email a day later saying that I had passed my exam. And it wasn't even with the worst grade, y'all. It was a decent, like a mediocre grade. And I felt my knees when I saw this. I was in the hotel room still, and I felt my knees, and I thought to myself, this is all the grace of God. It's so obvious that God wants me to succeed in these studies, because by my own power, I'm incapable. I am not cut out for this. By now you know this, because I've said it 1,000 times, but by my own power, I am not capable of doing any of these things at all. I have never been more unqualified to do anything in my entire life. And by His will, by His grace, by His provision, I have been able to pass these exams. And now I only have 2 papers that I have to write left and some internships, and then my bachelor's will be over. And yeah, that is my small little testimony about how God made my studies happen. I just want you to know that He has a plan for you. He does, even if you don't know what to do, if you don't know what your future holds. He does have a plan for you. He does have a calling for you, and He is going to use you. And you're going to see. You're going to see where you'll end up and what He'll make happen for you, because for His people, He is so loyal and He is so good, and He will make it happen for you as well. And I hope I'll see you around on this channel. I hope you can support me on this channel by maybe giving this video a thumbs up or subscribing. And I'll see you in my next video.